good I am today. 50% of you will say, this is nice, and walk out of here. 45% of you will say that's nice, try a couple things, but not sustain it, and then walk out. 5% of you will start to do some of the things I talked about and make it a normal habit, a normal routine, and you will develop yourself and advance your career. And it's 5% right now, and if I do just a little bit more, we can double that to 10%. Think about that. What I want you to take away from today, when we talk about networking, is one, understand if all of your eggs are in one basket. The people that are sitting around talking about you that can influence decisions that will move you up or down or around in your career are your eggs in that basket. Are all of your eggs in the I only network with my manager or my manager's manager? The second thing I want you to take away is that you drive your career. Opportunity seldom labels itself. Third, what I want you to take away is that once you do those first two things, networking will do the work for you. Treat it like money in a bank and let it grow. It will grow exponentially and do work for you if you effectively network. Most of us are living in an old hierarchy, up and down. You can talk to your manager's manager, you need to get permission to talk to somebody over here or over there. That's the old hierarchy. That's an old business model. We're in a flattened business model. We're across now, not up and down. You need to understand that. And finally, the last thing I want you to take away is it's not as hard as you think it is. Our job is to understand the culture, understand the people. And when you understand that, you buy into it a little bit better, a little bit more effectively, a little bit quicker than others that are around you. You start speaking a little bit of that language. You start to understand when people speak that language and saying, what did they just say? They just threw some acronym my way. That's what networking is. Think about this, though. We had Visa come in a couple years ago, and they said that the average college student has how many friends on Facebook? I'll take any guesses.
400.
250?
400.
400? 1,000? 438. You can't call all of them friends. It's all anonymous. It's all virtual. It's all, I'm very comfortable doing it in front of a computer, just hanging out. 34 million people are on LinkedIn. But yet I can't walk across the hall and talk to somebody I don't know. When we're sitting at a business function and we're told to, although we have to be told sometimes, to go talk to someone we don't know, what do? We congregate in our little pods of people we know. We hang on to our comfort level, and guess what? We're not networking. It's not doing the work for us. Harvard Business Review did an article on networking. And it started with an article about William Dawes. How many of you know who William Dawes is? Who's William Dawes?
Who's the other guy who wrote the Revolutionary War? The other Paul Revere.
He was the other Paul Revere. Not many people in this room knew that. Paul Revere went north, William went south. Guess who was the better networker? There's no poems about William Dawes. So someone taps me on the shoulder. Remember, opportunity seldom labels itself. So someone actually tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, there's this job opening in East Providence. You may like it. I would have overseen 750 people. There were 2 openings to oversee these 750 people. I went down there and interviewed for 8 hours. And I thought I made a decent impression. I thought my interviews went extremely well. They narrowed it down to 3 people. They selected 2, and guess which number I was? I was number 3. So the guy calls me to tell me I didn't get the job. So I asked the natural question, why? And the answer I got was, superb interviews, fantastic background. I had no idea who you are. And if I called up your manager, I had no idea who your manager was. So I had no idea if there was any credibility to anything being said about you. I just don't know who you are. So we set up some time, and guess what? After a while, we got to know each other. In fact, to this day, 5 years later, we're still in contact. Every time he's up here, he stops in to say hi. He calls me 6 months later and he says, Tom, guess what? One of them has left. The job is yours. No interview needed. Wow. Opportunity seldom labels itself. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. 3 days later, 3 days before, I had overheard a conversation that we were having trouble retaining people. So I started some conversations. I heard there might be a task force, and I said, I'm the person for that job. I'm driving my own career. And they said, okay, you're on a one-person task force. I said, great, what do you want me to do? They said, stop people attrition. I said, great. For 2 years, that's what I did. We reduced people leaving at a 45% clip down to 20% in less than a year and a half. And I say we because me couldn't do that. I could not do that alone. I had to partner and network with human resources, with leadership development, with managers, with the people who were potentially leaving. I had to talk to other lines of businesses that were out there and say, what's going on in your shop? Why are you so good? Why are you so bad? And we shared ideas. And we connected. I connected with a person who became my favorite person at this company, who ended up calling me and saying, can you come work for me? The value of networking. I was not job shopping in any one of these situations, except when I said I'll take the task force. What's the value of networking now? I've broadened my business acumen. I've learned a ton about other pieces of businesses I've never been in. I now have contacts when there's a fire drill, and yes, there's plenty of them. I can go to people, and they will help me fix it. The value of networking goes beyond just looking for another job. So that favorite person of mine, who I ended up working for, overseeing governance, whatever that was, I had to look that up in the dictionary. But she trusted my work because of our relationship that we have forged. So after 6 months of working for her, she gives me my mid-year performance appraisal, and she says, Tom, I'm going to give you a little lesson in networking. I'm going to oversimplify what happens in many companies. People sit around a table and they talk about you. There's the secret of talent planning. When there are 30 people and you're all doing similar jobs, they're going to take those 30 people and say who's on top and who's on the bottom. Whether you like it or not. So when you hear something like that in talent planning, the first thing you want to do is go into survival mode and start stabbing people in the back. Or step over them on the corporate ladder. What you're going to find with networking is if you do it right, you can all move up together. And then the cream of the crop starts to shine. The top talent goes to the top. The people you work extremely well with go along with you. But let's go back to takeaway number 1. Are all your eggs in one basket? Are you depending on your manager to tell your manager all the great things that you do? So my favorite manager turns to me and says, Tom, guess what? There's a bunch of people sitting around a table and her name came up. How does she know this? Because her mentor called her later that day. Someone she mentors with on a regular basis said, there were a bunch of people sitting around the table and your name came up, and guess what your manager did? Nothing. Didn't say a word. Bad hair day, bad mood, doesn't like her personality, doesn't like her skill set, just didn't feel like talking that day, didn't have any information, wasn't prepared, I don't know, I don't care. There's really doesn't matter. Because if all of the eggs were in this basket, imagine what would have happened on that day. Instead, the mentor said, well, I have a mentor relationship with her. Let me tell you all the great things that she does. Yeah, she has some opportunity. Oh, yeah, I remember who that person is. She's done some stuff for me. And then, oh, yeah, this person did some projects for me. And all of a sudden, her name gets put around. Unfortunately, that was the last performance appraisal I ever got from my favorite person, because she ended up getting promoted because of that conversation. Imagine all her eggs in that basket. So she says to me, Tom, your name came up when I was sitting around that table, and there were 15 of us. Of those 15, how many of them do you know? I knew this person and this person and this person. I knew 12 of the 15. She said, that's names. How many of them do you really know? I said, oh. I knew 6. She said, of those 6, how many of them could truly, genuinely talk about you as if they've known you? All the great things you've done, all your opportunities, and really, truly talk about it. Objectively, in a session. That left 12 people who had no idea who I was sitting around the table, who were making decisions of my next career move. So she says, simply, you've got some work to do. We came up with a plan. I have mentors. But instead of having that same mentor over and over and over and over again after 6 months, 7 months, a year, I decided to go on a little rotational basis. I chose to speak to anyone who was 2 levels above me, because I had to put myself in an uncomfortable situation, because if you only go to your boss's level, you're not truly networking most of the time. You're getting to know people, but is that truly networking where it's doing work for you?